Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another YouTube reflection, and this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, I am here to respond to something I read on YouTube. I watched a video about INFJs more than likely being demisexual, and I'd love to come back and unpack what does it mean to be a demisexual, and what does it mean for an INFJ to be a demisexual, and how does an INTJ, how can an INTJ connect to demisexuality as well or not? So I'd love to come back at another point to do a larger reflection on that. But I watched that video and then I went into the comment sections just to read what people had to say. And a lot of people seemed to be appreciative of the video in that it introduced two concepts that they had never heard of: demisexual and sapiosexual. And those are terms I've known about for the past 10 years. So I've already had my own journey with those two concepts, and I didn't connect with the comments in that. And I'm not an INFJ. How about that? But there was one commenter that made a statement that I wanted to expound upon, and I'm going to do that here. That's the purpose of me trying to do a short YouTube reflection. So the first thing that this person said was that demisexual is not really a word. It's not really a word or a concept, and I'm not going to try to quote this person verbatim. But the essence of it is that demisexual isn't a thing because it means, in this person's mind, it means a person who falls in love. And everybody falls in love. This is what this person is saying. Even INTJs and ENTJs fall in love. That is true. We do. Because, like this person said, love is an emotion. We all have emotions. We just don't necessarily make decisions with that emotion. That goes to this point of what demisexual actually means. What it means is that a person finds a sexual connection based on a romantic connection, based on an emotional connection. There are some people, and the video actually explains this in a way that I was like, oh, that's an interesting way of framing that. But there are some people who are sexually drawn by the sensation of the physical. So, and I don't think this is just censors, right? But their sexuality is based on the sensory aspect of sex. And they can be turned on based on those physical sensations. A demisexual isn't going to necessarily be turned on by physical sensation. Now, the physical sensation can enhance the connection, obviously, but what a demisexual is drawn to initially is the romantic connection or the emotional connection, and I think those are separate. And once the emotional connection is made, then the sexual connection can be activated. So yes, everyone has emotions, but not everyone is sexually turned on. Not everyone needs those emotions to be sexually turned on. So demisexuality or demisexual is a thing for people who need emotions to have a sexual connection with a person. Okay? All right. The second thing that the person said that I wanted to correct is the idea of pansexuality or being pansexual. And this person says pansexual is not a thing. If you're not pansexual, you're bi, as in bisexual. And this is a concept that I actually had to do some work on for myself. And so I'm going to fumble a little bit here. I believe I have it, but I've never had the opportunity to demonstrate my understanding. So let's see how it goes. Bisexuality is based on what is the term? It's based on a dual mindset or a duality. It's either this or that. And so you wouldn't think bisexuality is dual in nature because you're dealing with two sides. But that's the point. Bisexuality allows for two distinct genders. Only I am attracted to the female gender and I am attracted to the male gender. Now, in order to really appreciate this conversation, you're going to have to then distinguish or delineate between biological sex and gender. Most people understand that those are two separate concepts, but there are people still in the Flat Earth Society who believe that gender and biological sex are pretty much the same. That is, if you have male genitalia, you are a man, and if you have female genitalia, you are a woman, bypassing the nature or the fact that gender is a social construct that we inherit from the social world, and it changes across generations or time periods. What it means to be a woman today is not necessarily the same as what it was meant to be a woman in, let's say, 1000, like the year 1000 or 200 BC, or even if you go back to the 1600s, right? What does it mean to be a woman? It changes. So the nature or the essence of how a woman is understood or expressed isn't the same across time. Okay, so that in and of itself should tell you that gender is fluid. It's not fixed. Society determines what it means to be a woman, not the biological sex. The same thing for a man. Now, I sigh because I really want to stay in this notion of gender as a social construct and not, but that's not the purpose of this reflection. The purpose of this part of the reflection is to talk about the duality of gender, how it's treated. You are either male, you are either a woman, or you are a man, and you are only understood as a woman or a man as guided by the social narratives that we assign to that gender. And there are people who are attracted to that social construct of a woman and that social construct of a man. It goes beyond the genitalia, okay? Now, people who are pansexual say, I believe that there's more than two constructs of gender beyond a binary treatment. And because of that, I am attracted to multiple genders. If you don't understand or you can't accept that there are more than two genders, then this person is right. There's no need for the word pansexual, because only pansexuality only is based on the idea that there are more than two genders, right? Now, what I'd love to do if I had more time, and I would need to do a little more research, I'm going to be honest, but I would love to talk a little bit about biological sex, because what we have to do, and this really came out when we were listening to the confirmation hearings for Anita, not Anita, wrong hearing, for Judge Jackson, the woman who has been nominated for the Supreme Court. When they asked her, how do you define a woman? And she wouldn't define it. And the far right conservatives had a problem with that. All right, so this is what I'd love to do to talk about at some point. How do we determine the biological sex of an individual? Historically, biological sex has been determined by genitalia, but science is telling us there's more to biological sex than the vagina or the penis. All right. You have to get into the chromosomes and all of that. And before we had the scientific instruments to measure all of the different access points to biological sex, that's all they had was to use genitalia to determine um, one's biological sex. So just like gender has more than two options, gender needs to not be reduced to a binary construct. I believe, and again, I would need to do some more research on this, but I believe that biological sex isn't as simple as saying male or female, especially as reducing it according to genitalia. All of that to be said, all of that is being said because I'm a little bit out of my element, out of my area of expertise, obviously. But here's what I do know. For some people, pansexual is a necessary word because they are not reductive. They are not reductive to only two constructs of gender and two constructs of biological sex. And only a person who is ethnocentric or egocentric, only a person would dismiss two words because it doesn't work for you, then it means it's not necessary. See, that's not a word that works for me. So then I'm saying I'm rendering it invalid. We should one day I should come back and talk about ethnocentrism and egocentrism, but because I've been doing some studying about the ego, so I am going to come back under the full podcast to talk about it. So that's all I really wanted to say, y'all. I just wanted to respond to that commenter that demisexual is a concept because it's based on how are you turned on sexually. You need the emotions to do that. And pansexual is a word because for some people they need to go beyond the binary construct that in which bisexuality is rooted in. If you are new to this project and you want to know who I am and what I'm doing, I do have a fuller podcast, and it's a personal journal and I process out loud. I've been doing these YouTube reflections for maybe a year, just because I'd like to have a shorter treatment of responding to people, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. If you want to know more about me, who I am, or this project, please visit my website at yournidom.wordpress.com. All right, talk to y'all later. No, that's not my signature close. Here it is. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you until I come back. Be well. Bye.